Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where, as always, we believe most high net worth individuals and their professional teams struggle to find great capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way to exit your highly appreciated assets tax deferred so you can create, preserve, and grow more wealth. I'm your co-host, Pearson York, filling in for Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best wealth, business, real estate, and leadership individuals in the world to share ideas, deal stories, and inspirations. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. As always, we're also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets, our Facebook channels, Kingdom Luxury Realty YouTube channel, Kingdom Luxury Realty Facebook channel, and the Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel. So please rate, review, and subscribe. Smash that like button, hit the little notification bell, all that fun stuff that we're supposed to do now. So I'm super excited about our next guest. He is a partner with the Legacy Group, basically a venture capitalist for alternative investments, focusing mainly in Colombia. And we're about to have an awesome conversation. Cole Shephard. Cole, how you doing, my friend?
Doing very good, Pierce. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So Cole, tell me a little bit about how you got started in investing in Colombia.
Oh, that's a long story, but I'll start you from the beginning. So, when I got out of university, started with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I started in the U.S., moved to Bermuda for financial services. After Bermuda, went to work in M&A in Hong Kong. Was living between Hong Kong and Beijing for about 4 years, and I was looking at basically building a partner track with PwC or really moving on and doing my own thing. So I was interested in emerging markets, mostly between Southeast Asia, Latin America. Came down to Colombia for my brother's wedding, who got married in Cartagena. Saw the market, and I said to myself, I always told myself if I ever found an opportunity where I needed to, go all in on a project or a business, that I'm going to do it. So I came down to Colombia, saw anomalies in the market, primarily in real estate, and immediately went back to Hong Kong, resigned from the job, liquidated the 401k, the IRAs, all the investment accounts, and started doing my own businesses down here. What we see down here is a more, what I would say, inefficient market, but I would say it's ripe with opportunities. And so that's what really drove me down to Colombia.
Sorry about that. Before we dive in and unpack a lot of that, what are one or two strengths or spiritual gifts that you have that have led you to be successful as you are today?
I would say personally, it's my willingness to go outside of a comfort zone. I think that really started probably after college, where, I was comfortable moving to another country at the drop of a dime. I did that when I was about 25. And then, the next big move I did when I moved to Hong Kong, I had no friends, no family over there. That was one of the ones where I talked with a partner in the financial services group. And he said, you've got the job, but you got to be there. You got to be over here in 2 weeks. So that's one where, you move house, you move jobs, you move, family and whatnot, and you start somewhere new, start somewhere fresh. And you got to be comfortable with ever-changing circumstances. So I would say probably the willingness to be in different situations, the willingness to adapt to change, has probably been one of the biggest factors that have led me to where I am today.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and so what alternative investment made you drop everything from Hong Kong and move to Colombia?
So when I first came down to Colombia, my business was in Hong Kong, Beijing, was buying banks, buying insurance companies, assisting on the sales of asset management firms. So I was really in that financial services focus. I've been involved with transactions of buying, skyscrapers in Shenzhen or gold mines in Xinjiang province in Western China. But really my focus was always on, banking and insurance. When I came down to Colombia, what I saw was incredibly high mortgage rates, very low penetration rates on debt. And my primary focus at the beginning was real estate. I saw anomalies in the market. There was no MLS system here in Colombia. So the original thesis really was to start flipping real estate, investing in different real estate projects. And then if more capital is required, reach out to my existing network and build that out. From where I started and where I am today, what I found was although the market is inefficient, it's more difficult to spend I would say a material amount of capital on deals that you really love than it is, to find deals that are opportunities that are there due to the fact that the market isn't as efficient as you want it to be. So I've kind of transitioned from real estate only to saying, okay, there's other areas of the world to play in. Mostly I like small and emerging companies, developing companies. And that's where I see we can provide more value for both our investors and the partner group here at Legacy Group.
Yeah. So basically, it sounds like you got in there and got frustrated with all the inefficiencies in the real estate space and things not working smoothly, and it kind of hindered your ability to capitalize on the market without the infrastructure.
Yeah, I would say all the projects I've been involved with made money. My biggest issue was being able to deploy amount of capital that I would say is somewhat material. If you were to compare real estate here in Medellin to what you'd see in Miami or New York, I mean, you're looking at values that are probably could be as low as 10% of the values on a per square foot basis here in Medellin. So to deploy what I would say is meaningful capital, it was more difficult on a kind of a sole proprietorship basis where I have a few team members to try to find arbitrage. So basically what I needed to do at that time was, I was making decent money, but it wasn't a scalable business to where I'd say, I can do top line revenues of $1 million and above. And to me, when I look at businesses, if you can't do top line revenues of $1 million and above, even with small teams, it's what I would call as a cute business, but it's not something that I want to spend a significant amount of time on.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm curious then, like, how is you said you liquidated 401ks and you liquidated, your IRAs and all that kind of stuff to move over. How are the laws different when it comes to tax deferral and so on and so forth with the outside the U.S. markets? What do you what do you do?
So I would say U.S. tax market will be obviously different than what we'd see in Colombia. My main thesis really to come down to Latin America was more towards capital flows and where I saw inefficiency in capital flows. So, for instance, in Hong Kong, when we were talking about buying banks, no one in my circle will be talking about buying banks in Colombia or Mexico or Costa Rica. It just really didn't exist. This part of the world is vastly underdeveloped for, I'd say, that M&A space. I think whereas there is a tremendous amount of opportunity, from a tax perspective down here, I focus more on, I would say, domestic tax structuring than I would on the US based tax structuring. I've worked at PwC where you a lot with tax and thinking about it from a multinational perspective. But, when I first liquidated Roth IRAs and 401ks, the burden to take it on was less to me and say, if I have to take a tax hit on a 401k and pay taxes up front to withdraw money, rather than do a capital pull and give away half of let's say a startup business or an idea in my head, it was better to start with my own capital. But I would say from more, if you want to focus on tax down here in Colombia, less so with personal taxation would be the structuring. I would work more on the corporate structures. Here in Colombia, they have two tax regimes that I think are really attractive here in Colombia. One is SOMAC, ZOMAC. It was in force about 5 years ago. You could get your taxable burden down about 50 to 75% discount by investing in what they would call underinvested areas of Colombia. I guess it would be similar to what we'd see in the United States in an op zone regulation. And the second regulation really down here is called the Orange Economy. It's related to digital companies, media companies, and things like agriculture, where areas of industry the Colombian government is trying to promote, and they'll get your tax rate down to an effective rate of about 9%. So those are the two tax structuring techniques we use, but primarily for in-country taxation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so tell me about the coffee company that you got going on.
Sure. So company started 4 years ago, founded that, primarily funded with high net worth investors coming out of the United States. First cap round was about 5.7 million US. Since then, we've deployed about $28.5 million into Colombia. Today, we're the second largest producer of coffee in the country, and this year will be the largest. So coming into the first quarter next year, we'll be the largest player in one of the largest coffee producing nations in the world.
So how does that work with like your I mean, I'm assuming you have got like some Starbucks like Inns or Pete's or something like that. Some US based like coffee companies too that we probably all know, right? Like is that accurate?
For clients, I mean, the biggest ones that your viewership might know would be one of our big clients is Sucafina, which is the sixth largest buyer of coffee in the world. Our core product, like a minimum order size for us would be a container of green coffee. It'd be 38,000 pounds. So really on a B2B basis, the biggest client, basically like a bank, but in the commodity trading house world, will be some of the major clients that we use. If you're familiar with commodity industries, things like SKN, we saw the Lewis Dreyfus, Olam, but they're giant commodity houses. That would be our primary clients at the moment until we move into that more B2C sector here in the future.
Gotcha. Okay, so you guys are liquidating coffee across the
I mean,
the board.
we work in the millions of pounds. We don't do, we're not a boutique operation.
Right.
Where we look at is, today we have a little over 4,000 American acres of land, probably looking to 3-4x that in the next couple years. So we're in Colombia, we're a big player. We're a big boy player.
Yeah, absolutely. So then how do because we were talking before the show, right, about
Right.
some Colombian, investment opportunities. I got a friend who's, got this lime deal. Like
Hmm.
they're going to try and import more limes from Colombia instead of Mexico, right?
Hmm.
Diversify a little bit. Okay, cool. So, but some of the big question marks are, well, how stable is the Colombian government?
Right.
How, like people don't know, they know, cartels and stuff, come from Colombia. And if you don't, you don't know, you don't know. So,
Yeah.
I got my Colombian shirt on today, like
Yeah.
I got lucky, right?
Yeah.
But, so like, tell me, like, speak to that a little bit. What does the Colombian like government look like?
Sure. So it's a democracy. It's the longest running democracy in South America. Typically right wing. Right wing here is capitalism, by the way. It's not just our type of right wing. Right, right wing here is pro capitalism, pro business, more almost a little bit libertarian when it's approached to social governance and whatnot. We have presidential elections coming up. For us, it's not really a concern either way. Both candidates are very pro agriculture. They're pro foreign investment. So, for us, we're not really worried which presidential candidate comes up. But for Americans who aren't well versed in Latin American politics, Colombia is probably, if you look at most rating sites of, I'd say, South America and Central America, it's the most stable democracy in this part of the hemisphere. In reality, I would say American news especially, likes to sensationalize things, as we know. But a lot of stuff that you see in American news isn't actually what happens down here. There are markets, I would say, countries in Latin America that I would stay away from an investment point of view. But I would say Colombia, obviously, since I'm here, I live here in Medellin. Me and my partner work here every single day. We only really focus on investments here in the country. We wouldn't spend so much time if we thought it was what you would see in Narcos, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
and that was, kind of what I wanted to dispel, right? Is because, I was having a conversation with a private equity group the other day, and they're like, well, we're not really interested in going into Colombia. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. And for, X, Y, and Z reasons, and in my mind, I'm like, I don't think you actually know, not like I know better than they do, but like, I don't know if
Right.
that's like actually true, like what you're saying, like,
Yeah.
like why
Oh,
are they still in there?
I agree with that. I mean, one of the biggest hurdles we see from our high net worth investors. So for us, I mean, all the capital we bring in is high net worth investor. Most of our investors are worth somewhere between a million US, obviously on the low end, upwards of north of 100 million. right? And so most of them are looking for exposure outside the United States for one or two simple reasons. One is they're looking for arbitrage. They're looking for investments that they can get higher return than what they can see in the US. And they're massively concerned with inflation, right? Inflation is at the
Right.
top of their list. And they can't find basically inflationary protected, whether it be assets or enterprise value plays that they feel properly secure their portfolio. So then they start looking outside of the United States. Now, if I was raising capital in somewhere like the UK or Japan, it would be much more difficult to raise money for Colombia because it's not as familiar of a market. Whereas Americans are much more familiar and much more comfortable investing in this part of the world. So even though I would say a smaller percentage of Americans are really looking for exposure specifically for Colombia, they are looking for exposure outside of the US, specifically for arbitrage. And that's what we provide. We provide investments that you can't get without us being on the ground and running these things
Yeah.
from a project to a enterprise business level. And we look for things that we can perform far higher than what you could find in domestic United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes a ton of sense, and it's just, and maybe as things kind of, dip a little bit here in the United States and inflation really kind of like starts hitting hard,
Oh yeah.
then people will
Yeah,
be a little bit more like, okay, maybe I will invest in some limes or some coffee, like whatever. If the money's
definitely.
there, right, the money's there. So, what kind of returns are you guys seeing over there? Like, so like a typical, like, investor, right? Bringing in, it's like, all right, I'm gonna invest in the legacy group, and
Sure.
we're gonna buy some coffee. What kind of returns are you guys getting?
Sure. So, I mean, what we're trying to do is we're building an enterprise where we can either sell out to a corporate buyer here in 5 or 6 years, or you IPO it on the United States, US public exchanges, right? That's what we're going for. So, what we're shooting for is large exits. Now, we'll have, distributable cash flow throughout, but really it's a growth company. And there is no clear competitor for what we do. So we're so much further advanced than our competition stream that it's very difficult for someone to say, hey, I have a competitive investment product that I could get, exactly like what you guys have. But what we project really for our investors over a 5 or 6 year time period is about an 8x return for what we look
Wow.
at. So, I mean, we really only look at businesses where my partner and myself put a significant amount of our own capital in. I mean, 7 figures of our own personal capital into all the businesses that we invest in. And we look for huge returns, things that other people aren't looking at. And we want to be first to market. And we want to be, obviously, when we get it to an exit, first to exit before anyone else can have a comp similar to what we have.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. But 8x return is pretty dang good.
I mean, I would have, I commonly ask that when I'm on a investor call. And, if anyone has a deal better than what I'm presenting to them at the time, I always want to know. And actually, to this day, I've never, when I talk about coffee on a call with someone and say, look, send me a deal that you're looking at that you think could reasonably return better than this. So what we're talking about in the coffee company, I'm still yet to see someone send me over something that I'm saying, hey, I'm truly impressed with this. Because in reality, if someone sent me that deal, I'm throwing capital that way of my own money for sure.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. So, high returns, right? Emerging
Yes.
markets,
Yes.
hedging against inflation.
Yes.
There's a lot of benefits to investing in Colombia, but you said something really interesting. I want to dive into it. You said that you are looking to exit, like IPO, big exit in the United States.
Yes.
So how are you planning on dealing with the tax implications at that point?
So the whole company is structured as a Delaware holding corp. So it'd be the same as investing in, General Electric, investing in Tesla, any other company that has a domestic domicile in the United States. From a tax structuring perspective, we're not as, I wouldn't say that having a Delaware holding corp is like the standard. It's say, okay, I'm gonna do this solely for tax reasons. It's really to dual track it, so you're ready for either a corporate just to come in and say, I'm just going to talk to the board, get sign off. I can buy out all the LP investors immediately, or you can take it on a public exchange. For tax structuring, it's probably more on an individual investor basis on their specific circumstances, more than we think about it on a corporate basis.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it was a really good segue into my total shameless plugs over here. So I'm gonna go
Uh-huh.
ahead and do that. But a lot of times with these companies that are IPOing or whatever, right? The people at the end will get hit with that huge capital gains tax, especially if you got an 8x return. Like that's going to be a really significant, um, you know, issue for a lot of people.
Sure.
And what we do is we have a strategy that we like to use. It's called the Deferred Sales Trust and allows people to exit any highly appreciated asset, not just real estate. It could be a primary home, it could be a stock, it could be Bitcoin, it could be business, could be, highly appreciated art. It doesn't matter. And
Hmm.
it allows them to put it into other investments. It's like kind agnostic, so it's not like a 1031 exchange where you have to go from real estate to real estate. And you can put it into whatever investments you want on your time horizons. So you don't have the time constraints of a 1031. You don't have a like kind deal. The depreciation schedule, if you decide to go back into real estate, doesn't travel with you. Um,
Hmm.
Not everyone has to go. Unlike in a syndication or business, right? If you were going to um, in a syndication, right? If you were going to 1031, everyone's got to go with you, right? And if John's like, I'm not going, right?
Hmm.
It's the pooch for everybody. And so you can't do it. But with this, you get the ability to, if John doesn't want to go, John doesn't have to go, but Billy and Bob can still do their own deferred sales trust, and they can not have to pay any of the tax. So it provides a ton of flexibility, provides a ton of just like timing control and options on this stuff. And we have a mastermind that we do every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. You guys can come to, and uh, it's a great place to come and learn about it, ask questions, and just kind of like see, okay, how, what is this thing? How's it work? And all that kind of stuff. And so it's a phenomenal place to come and learn that. And actually, Cole, that's where our partner Jake Miller is on,
Hmm.
and he does a lot of stuff in Colombia. So he would be a phenomenal connection for you that I will absolutely hook you up with.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
so yeah. So anyways, that's 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, and I'll definitely invite you guys. So um, there's that. But anyway, so I'm curious, have you heard of that before or anything similar?
I've never actually heard of that structure before. It sounds similar to what I would see in op zone legislation for a role of a capital gain
Yeah.
into, I'm familiar with op zone, but I'm actually not familiar with deferred sales trust. So you probably saw me writing this down so I can check it out after the show.
Yeah, and you guys can learn more about that at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can sign up for the mastermind there and everything. So you can definitely do that. Um, you know, and whatnot. So, all right, what is your I'm going back to you now. What's your
Sure.
what's your next step? Where
Uh,
what are you investing in next?
I would say the next one for the coffee company, we'll be doing a Series C probably here in Q3. That'll be a big raise. I think the arts and entertainment company that I'm sitting in right now may do a capital raise here within the next 12 months or so. I would say the focus for Legacy Group, my partners and myself, really will be to grow out these companies, make sure we do right by investors, make sure we do what we say we're going to do, and make sure they grow. Our goal is really to build out these enterprises. And we think if we do a good job for investors, the world is our oyster. We can do more
Of
of
course.
these portfolio companies if we'd like to, but really our focus will be on these two portfolio companies for the short term.
Yeah. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to get involved?
They could, well, I see that you have my LinkedIn right there at the bottom of the screen. So you could follow us on LinkedIn. We're constantly posting out new media, what we're doing in the coffee company, what we're doing at the arts and entertainment company. Or you could follow us. You can check out our website at www.legacy-group.co. And you can see more. We write some articles about what we see in the alternative investment market. We'll do videos where we talk about different investment themes, but either one of those places are great areas to check out what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's linkedin.com/company/legacy group for those of you who are listening and can't see the screen.
Hmm.
Um, but if you are listening, you should just go to YouTube and watch it because it's way better, right?
Agreed.
Video's
Agreed.
king, right? Isn't that what they
Video is
say?
king. That's what
So
they say.
anyway, okay, cool. So Series C coming up for the coffee. You guys can earn. Are those guys still going to get an 8x equity multiplier on that one, or?
Yep. That's the multiplier we're going for the Series C. Obviously, the Series B boys are going to do better.
Hey, but 8x, you can't. That's almost as good as Grant Cardone over there, right? As 10x.
I'm telling you, you're going to have a tough time finding deals that are more attractive than this
Absolutely.
as a high net worth investor. I mean, I constantly troll out and try to find deals that are better, and I can't personally find them, and I do this every day. So
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, go check that out. It's a fantastic hedge against inflation. It's a great diversification play. It's a phenomenal return. I mean, so talk to me a little bit about are they returning in dollars? How's the exchange
dollars.
work?
Dollars. Here in Colombia, there's only one currency that's allowed to trade with the local currency, which is the Colombian peso, which is dollars. So the central bank here is called Banco de la República, and you have free cash flow exchange with U.S. dollars. But our product is denominated in dollar. Commodity coffee is traded on New York commodity exchanges, London commodity exchanges, and it's all denominated in dollars. So it's really a U.S. dollar cash flow business.
And you built all this up in 4 years.
Yes. Yeah, it's been an aggressive 4 years. But now it's the time where I would say we're really hitting the launch button on the company. It'd be really the first 4 years is almost like a venture business where you're going from seed funding to really build out the thesis. And now the thesis is proven to say, this is where we launch. This is where we lift off. So I would say this is probably the most exciting time to be a part of the business.
I know you
Personally.
said that you're only doing B2B in huge deals and moving millions of pounds of coffee, but I mean, like,
Right.
are you guys like funding Nespresso over there too?
Yeah, we do. We do sell to some of the large. Some of we sold to roasters in the past, but I mean, really the next step in a Series C is we become the roaster. We don't have to just sell to coffee roasters, coffee like I'd say roasted coffee companies. We'll actually become those here in the short term. So we're actually looking at projects with some of those big players that you're talking about now. Guys like Nespresso, Starbucks. Starbucks only has one farm globally, and they were impressed with what we're doing here in Colombia. So we got invited to meet their head agronomist and their head team in Latin America and Costa Rica about 3-4 weeks ago. So we met them. They're coming down about 2 weeks to visit our farms. So they're guys that run the Americas for all their agriculture, all their special projects. So we'll likely have in the next year, we'll probably be launching some, special projects with some of the biggest players in the world, which is pretty exciting.
All right, nice. I'm gonna hit you back up and get some of those Nespresso pods because they bankrupt me. That's where your 8x return's coming from. It's Nespresso over there, man. Those things are expensive. So, anyways, all right. Well, Cole, it's been awesome, diving in and learning just about your business model and whatnot. Guys, can you give your website one more time for people?
Sure. www.legacy-group.co.
Legacy-group.co. You can find out more about that and get on and get an 8x multiplier. And now every time you buy Starbucks, you'll be like, all right, I'm making money. So it's cool.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Awesome. All right. So I'm gonna get real quick into the lightning round, and then I got to get you out of here because I know we're kind of coming up on our time here. So Cole, what's your favorite leadership quote?
Leadership quote. Let's see. For a quote, I do love. I guess this might be a cliche one, but I love the quote for entrepreneurship relating to Mike Tyson's quote saying, "Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth." I do like that one.
That's a good one because you always get punched in the face.
Yep. Welcome to my life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What's your favorite book?
Favorite book? I like the Ascent of Money. Neil Ferguson, UK writer. It's about the history of the world, history of how basically a lot of the history of the world can be related to economics. Mainly because I think, a lot of things in the history of the world kind of relate to today. History is not always the same, but it rhymes, that cliche, which I do think is true.
It's a good one. Interesting. Okay. What are you most curious about right now?
Curious about right now, I would say what's going to happen in, let's say, in the coffee markets here in the near term. I would say we're following that every day. Another cliche because I'm in the coffee business every day, but it's an exciting place to be. And you can't always tell the future.
What's your favorite brand of coffee?
I would say our coffee is excellent. We do roast coffee just for our investors. It's called Galle de Oro. You can actually get it on Amazon. Anyone can get it, but we do it just for our investors. I would say that's some of the best coffee you can buy from Colombia, honestly, because we only ship our premium product and we discount it for all investors on Amazon. So if you're looking at really good coffee, we don't really make any money on it, but Galle de Oro, which means the golden rooster, that's that coffee. Like whenever we're at the farms, I always bring some of it back to my house because it's really great.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Any final words? Any final thoughts?
Not really. I think I had a great time on the show, Pierce. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And we really appreciate, you being on and taking your time, to come in, and thanks again, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy is the best way to create, preserve, and grow your wealth. Please rate, review, subscribe. Cole, thanks again for coming on the show, man. Really appreciated it. All the value you brought. And guys, go check out his website, legacy-group.co.
Perfect.
And get in and get on some coffee. 8x multipliers over there. It's phenomenal stuff. So, Cole, thanks again, man. And thanks again, everybody. We'll see you soon.